What's going on, everybody? It's time for another painting challenge video. For this particular challenge, it was a little bit different, as we were sponsored by Andy and the team over at Footsore Miniatures for this Gangs of Rome themed painting challenge. Essentially, for this one, what we did is we had everybody who wanted to participate pick out one of the fighters from the new line, and they got shipped a miniature, um, courtesy of Andy and the team, and then they had the month to paint it however they saw fit. And we've had a pretty good response. I mean, I'm really blown away by the amount of work that people turned in, but more importantly, I'm really pleased with the way that everybody took this project and kind of made it their own, despite, only having, a handful of fighters to choose from, or a handful of models. So even though the playing field was rather limited, we had a really wide, diverse turnout of models. So I was really pleased with that. So we'll just go down the line here. And our first entry is by Taro Kanko, and I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's names, as always. I try my best. But submission was an Octavius, which I really, really enjoyed, kind of turning the model around and seeing it from all different angles and stuff in the photos. But the main things that stand out to you with this model is how Taro really pushed himself to kind of try new things and explore with blending and highlights and shadows and stuff like that. But then also being able to turn what some people might have considered an accident and stuff on the face into something really cool and unique, with that black eye that he put on there, which just adds a whole nother level of character and really gives you the feeling that this guy has been in quite a few fights, one after another maybe, and hasn't really had a chance to heal up from the last one. So that's a really unique model there. And then the next one after that is by Leland Martel. He did a Quartus miniature, sort of Celtic themed, with all the woad tattoos and stuff like that painted on to the skin to really kind of give it the feeling of maybe this guy was captured and then forced into the arenas to fight, and then maybe somehow escaped, and now he's working for a house to kind of pay back his debt for his freedom, so to speak. So again, the thing that I really took away from everybody's models for this challenge was how much character and backstory you could generate with such a blank slate of a mini. So just phenomenal work, everybody, in that one. And Leland, I really love the tattoos. I tried to do something similar on one of my guys, but it did not turn out nearly as good as yours did. So I'm definitely going to be taking some tips from that one. And the next entry after that is by Antoine Bergeron. He selected a Tisiphone for his entry, and just as always, Antoine does a really great job of picking a really good color palette that ties well together, and then all of his highlights and his shadows are really well blended together, so that way it's not too stark, not too gritty or anything like that. Very smooth blends, like always. And the Tisiphone model is just such a simple but elegant pose that you can go just about in any direction with. And one of the best things to do with it is just to keep it simple. And that's what he did, and it really looks phenomenal. I definitely am thinking about picking one up. I didn't want to get one of the named characters because I didn't want to be like everybody else, because I assumed everybody was going to jump on how awesome they were. But I'm really glad to see that there was only a handful of the named characters, because it really means that there was a lot of people interested in kind of exploring their own thing and putting their own twist on it, which is what this was all about. But yeah, awesome work as always, Antoine. The next entry after that is by Jamie McKendry, who finally received his. It took his a little bit to get there. Same thing with Taro. Models that had to travel over over land and sea and air to get to Australia. It took a little bit longer, but that didn't stop Jamie from producing a really awesome looking miniature. Um, and as you'll see in the next miniature after that, um, this is a really amazing example of how you can take a miniature and two different people can produce totally different work. Um, Jamie's Quartus looks a little bit sunbaked, like he's been out in the hot sun fighting and maybe doing some hard labor and stuff like that. Um, but it's a really warm palette. All the skin tone looks really well blended. The hair and everything looks really nicely highlighted too. And overall, it's just a really good, simple model um, that accepts a really good paint job really well. And Jamie did an awesome job with that, um, making sure that it didn't look chunky or out of place or anything like that. Um, and so that's a good kind of segue into our next one there. The next entry is by Ray Bill, who also did a Quartus. But his looks totally different from Jamie's, and that's not a negative against either model. That's just kind of a really good example of how the miniatures in this line um, lend themselves to whatever you feel like the fighters should look like, which is really cool because you can kind of tell your own stories with them, um, and and I kind of see Ray's sort of as the opposite of Jamie's. Maybe not necessarily a guy that's been a slave at any point in his life or anything like that, but maybe kind of like Leland's, where he was like a Celtic warrior who's been kidnapped and then forced to fight or something like that. Or maybe he's just a soldier that got left behind. Um, and decided to make the best of it and put his skills to good use in the Aventine. So, and Ray, I just got to say too, your skin tones are really soft and very well shaded and very well blended together. That they really resemble the studio um, paint style, and that's always a good thing when you can recreate that, because then it kind of gives you the impetus to keep going forward with your paint scheme, or with models that have a lot of skin tone revealing and stuff like that. You know, so fantastic job with this one, right? The next entry after that is by Scott Jennings, who turned in a nonus or nonus. I apologize, my Latin is quite rusty, so I'm just doing the best I can here. But Scott's model was really nice, really well done. Um, one of the things I guess I would take away from everybody's work that was turned in with this particular activity was just how well you guys attacked skin tones and really didn't shy away from coming up with some pretty nice looking, um, you know, skin tones and stuff like that. But then kind of taking and making it your own thing too, especially with the uniqueness of the sort of conversion that was done for this mini to make it look like it doesn't look out of place in Rome, but something's quite not quite right. Um, so that's really interesting, the conversion and stuff that kind of went into that, and the robe or tabi or whatever you want to call it at that point. Um, really dark, but it's not super dark and it doesn't look one-dimensional. So that's always really good to achieve with dark color schemes. Um, and then, of course, having some brighter colors to pop on there as well. I know that's always tough to do sometimes, to be able to balance it. But yeah, you did a fantastic job with this one, man. Our next entry after that is by Darren Orr, who did a Quintus model, and this is going to be another example of two people taking the same miniature and kind of putting their own spin on it. Darren's Quintus has a red cloak or red uh, tunic, and you know, nice little trimming and stuff that he's put on there and stuff like that. Definitely looks older. I don't know if that's what he was trying to go for, but he definitely looks like he's been fighting for quite a while there. Um, and I'm not sure if it was just because of how the model looks, but when we get to our next entry, you'll see what I'm talking about, and how it sort of, going back to what we said before, that the models can take on a whole different tone or different appearance depending on the paint scheme and the vision of the person painting it. Um, so, you know, that's a really great segue into the next entry. Um, that was by Jonas Ekmer. Um, Ekmer, I apologize again if I'm pronouncing it wrong. But his Quintus definitely looks a lot younger and like he is trying to make a name for himself, and out for blood. Um, quite literally, he's definitely headhunting, if you know what I mean. Just awesome work with the gore and everything, painting up the model, keeping it, relatively simple and kind of clean, with the robe color choices and everything. But then, of course, you've got the blood effects on the axe, and then blood effects on his leg and everything like that, where he just finished chopping the dude's head off. And then there's some blood on his face as well, kind of and you can kind of almost feel like this is not um, from him cutting the head off. That might actually just be his own blood from the really tough fight that he just got out of. And then, of course, Jonas did a fantastic job setting the scene or setting the mood, taking the photographs the way that he did. Um, so, really awesome job there, too. Um, our next entry after that is by Rod McDonald. It's another Tisiphone. Um, and with Rod's, I really liked the way that, again, everything just blends together so well. All the color choices and everything just go together. But then again, I think all of you guys really do a fantastic job with identifying color schemes that work together, and then just attacking it, to make something that looks really awesome. And I know that Rod kind of maybe didn't think this was done, but I think that at the point that it was in the photo, um, I mean, I would love to see that on the table coming at me, because it looks done to me from arm's length or tabletop commander's length, so to speak. Because you don't play the entire game holding a miniature 6 inches away from your face. They're at arm's length from you most time. So really good job there. And if this isn't done and you do end up doing some more work on it, please be sure to share that with the group, because it can only get better from there, because I think it's already great as it is. So when this thing is officially done, I mean, it's going to be knocking it out of the park then. And then rounding out, I believe, our second to last named character, we have another Tisiphone by John Harrington. And his take on Tisiphone I found really refreshing, because I know some people like to shy away from doing different skin tones and stuff like that, but John did a really great job capturing a different skin tone for it, and Tisiphone as a character, obviously the studio went with one scheme, but there's nothing stopping you from trying something totally different. And in the case of John's African American skin tones that he went with, I mean, it looks really good, and the character looks so cool. I don't see anything that looks like it might not have been highlighted right or anything like that. Um, the color choices as well for the tunic, and then the greaves and everything like that, it all works really well because it adds a lot of contrast to the mini. And then if the paint job wasn't enough, he did a really good job with the basing for it, and then printed out some photos to put behind her to make it look like she's right there in Rome. So, you know, another really awesome job, um, and just another really great example of how a mini can become whatever you want it to be, especially with a range like this that's so blank slate, or, you know, tabula rasa, to borrow a phrase. You can really go any direction you want with it. So awesome job with this one, John. The next entry after this is by Brian Latour, who turned in a Decimus. I think it was a Decimus. Um, I have trouble remembering which numbers correspond with which fighters, but I mean, he went all out with the base and everything. The setting is perfect for it. Obviously, she's charging forward among the columns and stuff, ready to leap out at somebody and end them in a very gruesome fashion, I would imagine, especially from the trail of blood in the area. So, um, just this is an example of being able to take another simple miniature and then just going crazy with the basing and everything to really set the scene for your mini. And the color scheme that he went with that sort of purplish violet pink for her tunic with the gold trimming looks really cool. And then her blade, um, he went with like a non-metallic metal style, and that looks really cool too, especially with the gore and everything dripping off of it. So it's a really cool paint job on the mini as well. A little bit simple, but that's, again, that's what we kind of can do with the mini as far as like the skin tones and stuff. And then it's up to you if you want to add tattoos or whatever you want to do. But you know, this was just a phenomenal job overall. Um, I was definitely blown away, and I'm really curious to know where those pillars came from because they're so unique. Um, I wonder if they're like Reaper bones or something like that. But definitely, Brian did a phenomenal job just going over the top, above and beyond with the setting and everything. So fantastic job again, Brian. How did you do? I'm curious to know also how you did the plinth work for the stone and the basing, and then putting the logo there. That was a really nice touch as well. Make sure that you share your steps, or you know, your how-tos, your secrets in the group at some point, because that was really cool. Our next entry after that is by David Xavier, who did a group shot. He was actually working on a bunch of Gangs of Rome minis at the time that we started this contest, and so he decided that he was going to follow along and submit his stuff for the video. And I gotta say, I really love the variety of color schemes that he went with. And this is, again, going back to what we talked about earlier about how you can go just about any direction you want with the minis in the range, and you can get such a really diverse group if you just pick out some really good colors that you like. Keep the skin tones smooth and well shaded and highlighted to kind of give you that sort of appearance that they're in motion, they're being used. That was one of the things that everybody seemed to have done really well, is capture that sense of movement by giving the skin tone on all the different muscle groups really good highlights and definition and shadow. And Dave's is a good example of that one. You know, especially in his, I believe that's Quartus, his guy in the center there. He's got some really well-defined chest pecs there. They're making me a little bit jealous, man. If it was that easy, I'd be hitting the brushes instead of the gym. Um, so yeah, awesome work with the group as a whole, and then the bases are really nicely done too. Um, I don't know if he did green stuff or if it's just little bits of plastic card or what, but those are some really sweet looking bases, and it looks like he didn't have to do a whole lot of work to unify them all. And then of course still have the openings for the wound markers and stuff too. So um, definitely that's definitely a gang that's ready to go to town and hit the streets, paint the town well red, so to speak. Um, and our next entry after that is by Josh Schaub, who did a Sextus. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Sextus. Um, seashells by the seashore kind of thing. Um, but this was another really good one, and I think it was the only Sextus of the entries that we had, um, and it was just a really good, clean mini again, because that's what really makes these minis stand out on the table is keeping everything so well defined and simple. But again, it's another one of these Celtic woad paints and stuff like that that make the mini stand out and look totally different, and really catches the eye when you see it on the battlefield, because it's not going to be like anything else. Um, and the palette choice that he went with the dark green, and then the bright orange hair, and the blue paint, the woad paint, really that's a really good color combination there. All those three together. As I look at my color wheel, I think they're kind of complementary or split complementary, so you can kind of do a really good palette with that. And Josh really did. That was a fantastic job picking those colors out. And again, the uniqueness of the model is what makes the paint scheme work, because it's just whatever you apply is going to make that character uniquely yours. So, Josh, thanks for submitting that one, because it's a really good example of what you can do um, with the minis in the range. And then the last entry that we have is by our very own Kim Larson. He did a Barca, which I believe was one of the only Barcas, or the only Barca that finished, and one of the only Barcas in the challenge for the month. But Kim's Barca looks really cool because it's a different paint scheme again, like we said. Kind of close to the factory or to the studio paint scheme, but then just changing up the skin tone a little bit, really defining the scars over his eye and stuff like that, and giving him a different hair color, and then following it with the beard and everything. All those things combined made for a really awesome looking mini that captures the feeling of the game, again, being able to take a mini and make him look like your vision. So maybe this Barca was a Roman soldier who spent a little bit more time fighting in the European theaters and stuff like that. So it's a really awesome mini. And then, of course, he did his little detail on his tunic and stuff like that. So, and then you can kind of see the glint of the metal on his armor plates as well. So, amazing job, as always, Kim. Keep up the awesome work. And with that, it's time to announce the winner. And for this one, first I have to say that this was an extremely tough choice, and it just came down to a couple of different factors, looking at who was able to take the mini and really do a lot with it in terms of like the paint scheme, the overall paint scheme, how clean the work was and stuff like that. But then also who really kind of decided to try something out of the norm maybe, and go all out and come up with something really uniquely theirs. And I think the one that really captured that, focusing on the mini, was, drumroll please, Taro Kanko. His Octavius, just I kept coming back to it because the highlights on the skin were so well defined. The highlights on the tunic were so sharp. You could see all the creases and everything in his tunic and stuff, and then the tattoos and everything that he's got um, all over his body and stuff really kind of add areas of interest on otherwise blank areas. Um, and then, of course, his dagger or his short sword is pretty simple, but it was done in a really good, clean style. You don't have to get too crazy with it sometimes. But then, of course, um, taking a little mistake and then pushing it into the realm of, hey, this might look kind of like a bruise if we push it, and just it added so much character to the mini that it just, like I said, I kept coming back to it and looking at it and finding something else on it that I really enjoyed. And the base, even though he didn't do a major base or anything like that, he didn't clip it off of the base that it comes with. Just kind of touched that up and gave it that look of stone, and then a few little well-placed tufts of grass there to kind of give you the effect of um, the the cobblestones and the wood and the weeds peeking up through it. Um, which, hey man, I wouldn't have even known or thought to do that. So that was a really good job with that. Um, and then the leather, just everything on the mini. Like I said, I just kept coming back to it. And the more that I found, the more I knew that this was going to be the mini that was going to be taking home the prize um, of the two-player starter set. So Tara, be sure to get in touch with either myself or Dan, and then we will get that information passed along to Andy um, and the team over at Footsore so they can get those minis out to you. And again, just want to say a huge thank you to Andy and his team for sponsoring this month's challenge and letting us do something like this for you guys because it, it it keeps everybody painting, and that's the most important thing. Because again, these challenges are about pushing yourself to try new things and new boundaries, or exploring new things and saying, okay, this works, this doesn't. Just really having fun with it. And Taro's mini really embodied that theme. So um, that's kind of what we always strive to do. So just keep up the awesome work, everybody. But yeah, um, this has been an awesome challenge to watch you guys paint and then um, try to paint along with you guys. As always, I try to. Sometimes my stuff doesn't pales in comparison, so to speak. But that's a good thing because that means that everybody's trying, and it just inspires us to keep trying and do more things, right? So without further ado, thanks for watching, you guys. Um, keep an eye out for the next challenge. It's actually already up, if I'm not mistaken, for the in cover challenge, where you have to have your 3 different elements of the mini, a piece of terrain, and the base, all kind of as a cohesive thing, not as one thing, but 3 separate elements that all work together. I am totally still flat-footed. I can't even think of anything, but I've already seen some really awesome work from everybody in the group who's got some ideas and have just taken off running with it. So yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.